A lot of people write to me frustrated and scared because their doctor hasn't kept up with recent research about the effects of childhood trauma. And for some people, an incorrect diagnosis or a lack of diagnosis of PTSD or complex PTSD means they can't access appropriate treatment. And this could be a real problem. But in this video, I want to tell you why I think that instead of waiting for a diagnosis or feeling locked in by it, the most important thing is whether you can learn to start noticing your symptoms and learning to heal them. I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and here are 3 reasons why I believe healing your own symptoms of childhood PTSD is so important it might even be more important than diagnosis. First of all, here in the US anyway, there is still no official diagnosis, technically, of complex PTSD or CPTSD. That's the kind that comes from ongoing intense stress rather than a specific or short-term experience of intense stress like with PTSD. For example, PTSD could be from a battle. CPTSD could be from spending years living in a war zone. The symptoms are similar, but they're not the same, and neither are the treatments. But for whatever reason, the US doesn't yet recognize CPTSD as a distinct diagnosis. Does that mean you don't have it? Who knows? What we do know is that people who grew up with abuse and neglect show a common and distinct set of symptoms. And if you want to learn more about those, I summarize them in a 20-question quiz that you can take. I put a link to that down in the description section below. And from time to time, I get a note from someone who has taken the quiz who wants to know how to interpret the results. And of course, I'm not a doctor or therapist, and I can't diagnose anyone, but anyone can look at that list of symptoms and reflect on whether this sounds like something that they've experienced. And if you have had those symptoms and you resonate with them and you want to start feeling better, there's no reason, whether you have a diagnosis or not, that you can't start working on them. It's a process of learning to be aware and of learning to calm your triggers. And you can do that whether or not you have access to professional help, whether or not your provider is knowledgeable enough to even know about CPTSD, and whether or not they even believe you that you're having these symptoms. If they believe you, and they'll guide you toward good treatment that helps you, great. If they dismiss you and say you're just depressed or anxious or a hypochondriac, you can still heal your symptoms. You own your healing. The second reason why I believe a diagnosis isn't strictly necessary to start your healing is that CPTSD, like many other mental health problems, doesn't mean the same thing to all people. According to a study conducted in 2019 at the University of Liverpool in the UK, and this was published in the scientific journal Psychiatry Research, most psychiatric diagnoses are scientifically meaningless, and to quote the study, worthless as tools to accurately identify and address mental distress at an individual level. You heard that right. The researchers analyzed 5 chapters in Britain's DSM. That's the diagnostic manual that they use in the UK to determine who has what and then what treatment should be administered. They looked at bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, and also at trauma-related disorders. And they noticed first that there was a lot of overlap in symptoms across these different diagnoses, even though each diagnosis uses different decision rules. Second, the researchers found that the diagnoses completely ignore the role of trauma in a person's life, which makes their symptoms into not very good indicators of what's really going on for them. And worse, it doesn't tell you what treatments might be helpful. The conclusion was that, in the words of the researchers, this diagnostic labeling approach is a disingenuous categorical system. Now, one of the things this study talks about is that diagnostic criteria wrongly assume sometimes that all mental distress is caused by a disorder. And they say that this relies too much on old ideas about what's considered normal. And one of the authors, John Reed, says, and I got to read this to you, just a minute. Perhaps it's time we stopped pretending that medical-sounding labels contribute anything to our understanding of the complex causes of human distress or of what kind of help we need when we are distressed. So it's worth pointing out that among all the diagnoses they analyzed, complex PTSD, probably has the least developed treatment standards. In the diagnostic manual, it's still lumped in with standard PTSD here in the US, so it doesn't have its own treatment officially. And I know one function of an official diagnosis is that it becomes a code that a healthcare institution can put in the computer in order to authorize treatment for you and get reimbursed by your insurance, and that's important. So it feels like a diagnosis really is important, but there are a dozen reasons why, when it comes to benefiting you, that diagnosis is not necessarily meaningful. What is always meaningful, regardless of what's happening with your doctor or your insurance, is your symptoms. These are real phenomena that you can notice and you can start working on them, whether you've got top-notch care or you're stuck in a 2-year queue in some health system to get assigned to a provider, or even if you have no professional help at all. And that's what my courses are for, is to help you be aware of the signs and symptoms that might be affecting you and to start using simple techniques to calm those symptoms, calm your PTSD triggers, and start changing specific problems in your life. So unless you've been involuntarily committed, it's your right to take charge like this and to consult professionals when you need them. They don't give you your healing. They help you to follow your own healing path. And this way of viewing it is far more empowering than waiting to be helped or waiting to be understood or being angry that the help that was given to you just didn't work. You gotta keep trying, keep reaching out. You are in the driver's seat. Now, the third reason I suggest that you focus on healing your symptoms rather than just on your diagnosis is that it frees you from the identity of a person with a mental disorder. If you're experiencing the common symptoms of CPTSD and you had trauma, you're normal. These symptoms are a normal reaction to abnormal circumstances. Your trauma is something that happened. Your being is something else entirely. You are not your trauma. You are you, and you have the power right now to take steps towards healing. If you've been in a position where you felt helpless and you were waiting or depending on doctors and therapists to make it better for you, and yet you're still struggling, I know that's hard. But it's so important that you don't give in to despair. Lots of us didn't respond to conventional treatment, but we do respond to other techniques and strategies, and you can learn about them by Googling or joining online communities and talking to other people who've healed. Now, one thing you can do is what I did, and I call it my daily practice. It's a simple set of techniques. I teach them in a free short online course that you can access from a link below in the description section, and it helps to heal brain dysregulation from childhood PTSD. And it helps you get a better footing for taking any other kind of healing steps that you want to try. Now, I've got more advanced courses too, and links to those are also in the description section. But I want to say, you had trauma and you are strong. You have a mind that you can use to direct your own healing. You have the internet, and with a little research, you can make good choices about who's going to help you. If you can't access the treatment you hoped for because of wait lists or costs, there are others where you don't need authorization or even insurance coverage to just start working on your healing right now. My website has a bunch of things you can try. It has a resources page. Be courageous about moving your healing forward, one step at a time. That's the way it's done, and you can do it too.